Good morning. We are sorry to interrupt our regular scheduled program, but we have some very important news. The Constitutional Convention has decided to make a new form of government. They made this new form of government because the national government needs to have more power and keep the states together. 55 men from 12 of the 13 states met in 1787 to create the new Constitution. The new form of government consists of three branches. The first branch is called the legislative branch. The legislative branch is responsible to create the laws. The legislative branch is made up of two houses, the upper house and the lower house. They are also known as the Senate. The upper house and the House of Representatives, the lower house. Together they are known as Congress. In the Senate, every state has 2 members, and in total there are 100 seats. In the House of Representatives, there are 435 seats, but every state has a different number of members depending on their population. And the government performs a census to determine how many members each state gets to send out. For example, California has 53 representatives, and Rhode Island has 2 because of the population. In the beginning of the legislative process, all bills must pass through Congress. Once the bills pass through with a 51% or higher vote, the bills are sent to the president. The president has up to 4 options in the legislative process. Number 1, the president likes a bill, signs it, and becomes law. Number 2, he vetoes the bill. He doesn't like the bill, vetoes the bill, and the bill is returned to the House of Representatives and the Senate. And then the bill has to pass again with a 66% rating from both the House of Representatives and the Senate. Then the bill becomes law without the need of the president's signature. This option is called overriding the veto. The third option allows the president to let the bill sit for 10 days, and the bill automatically becomes law. The fourth and final option allows the president to pocket veto by holding the bill right before Congress is about to adjourn or leave for recess, and the bill doesn't become law. The leader for the House of Representatives is called the Speaker of the House, and the leader for the Senate is the Vice President of the United States of America. An individual must be at least 25 years old to be in the House of Representatives, live in the United States for 7 years, and live in the state to be elected in, and obtain 2 years in office without term limits. In contrast, an individual must be at least 30 years old to be in the Senate, live in the United States for 9 years, live in the state they are elected in, and they get 6 years in office and no limit on number of terms. The second branch is called the executive branch. The executive branch's job is to carry out and enforce the laws. The president is first in command for the branch. The vice president is second in command. There are several requirements for the executive branch. An individual must be at least 35 years old, be a natural-born citizen of the United States of America for 14 years. In the executive branch, the president and the vice president have 4 years in office and a maximum of 2 terms, 8 years in total. The advisors, referred to as the cabinet, help the president make decisions. The president, who is part of the executive branch, can appoint Supreme Court judges, appoint cabinet members, act as the commander-in-chief for the military, negotiate treaties, veto legislation, grant pardons and reprieves for federal crimes. The last branch is called judicial branch. The judicial branch's job is to decide whether a law has been broken by someone. The judicial branch interprets the law and applies the law. The judicial branch is also responsible to ensure that the law is constitutional, referred to as checks and balances. The Supreme Court is made up of 9 judges, but there are currently 8 right now. The Supreme Court justice serves in the highest court in the United States of America. There are no formal qualifications for federal judges. The judges are selected by the President of the United States of America and may only be removed by impeachment with a guilty verdict. There are some advantages and disadvantages for each branch. For example, the legislative branch advantage is has the ability to introduce ideas into law, and the disadvantage for the legislative branch is that the idea may be vetoed by the president and has to go through a whole cycle. Under the executive branch, the cabinet helps the president with ideas, but the disadvantage is that the cabinet and the president may not always agree on the ideas. Lastly, as an advantage under the judicial branch, the Supreme Court justice ensures that laws are constitutional. But the disadvantage is that one of the judges may want more power than the rest of the others. Well, that's all for now. We apologize for interrupting the regular scheduled program, but stay tuned for more breaking news in the future. And this is a diagram of our new government.